throw down. Heartbeats racing, can't slow down. Feel the tension, feel the heat. Emotions hitting on repeat. Wrestling win with our inner fight.
Hey everybody, good evening, and man, what a difference a day makes. Am I right or am I wrong? Yeah, the the Wrestlemania weekend has come to an end. We have a new undisputed WWE champion as predicted. Where do we go from here? We'll find out tomorrow. We'll also talk about how WWE didn't really hide the fact that John Cena was basically kind of going over. I mean, he was promoted for almost everything post WrestleMania, which, of course, if he wasn't going to be the guy, why would they do that? But let's go through it. Let's go through it match by match. And again, I wish, and I'm talking a little quietly because my wife is sleeping, but I wish, like I said, top to bottom tonight, awesome. Excuse me, if you listened to the podcast earlier today, where I reviewed night one, what a snooze fest for the majority of the night. Tonight, terrific from start to finish. Crowd in and out a little bit again. Once again, a little bit of an issue, but much more engaged tonight for sure. So let's talk about it. We started off with the Women's World Championship triple threat match: Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, and Bianca Belair. I was confused, and I asked a friend too, and he didn't know either. Not sure quite why people are booing Bianca Belair. I'm not quite sure. I like every woman in this match, I thought and predicted that Io would go over again. Obviously, she was treated like the third wheel, or the what would be the best word? Like a throwaway piece for this particular match. But I think everybody did a really great job. The entrances were cool. Man, I'll tell you what, Io had a great ring gear. But Bianca's robe, I watched this with my wife, and I could not get over how awesome her rose robe was. Just roses stacked, obviously probably fake, but it looked incredible. Her gear for WrestleMania the last several years has been awesome, and is represented, I believe, also in figure form for her Ultimate figure, either from last year's WrestleMania or maybe the one before. But anyway, she looked awesome. I think they all did a really great job. This had a little bit of mix of everything: power, high flying, and I thought the finish was pretty cool with Io basically hitting the moonsault, recovering the pin that was going to, I believe, give Bianca or Rhea the win. I can't remember who was on top at that particular point. I think Rhea was covering Bianca. But anyways, awesome match. Io retains, so we'll see where that goes from there. Next match we get, and again, I think I mentioned this, hey, this has the potential to be like one of those throwaway matches that could end up being awesome, and it was. The Fatal 4-Way match for the Intercontinental Championship. How do you like that? I said Intercontinental Championship, correct. The first time. You had Braun Breaker versus Penta versus Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor. Great from beginning to end. I think every guy got a little bit of his offense, and Penta, I want to say he kind of felt like more of a lost person a little bit in this particular match. It boiled down to, again, another pretty cool finish, very similar to the one that we saw in the triple threat match for the Women's World Championship, where Finn Balor hit the coup de grace on Braun Breaker. Mysterio then hits the 5-star frog splash on Finn, covers him for the win, and is the new Intercontinental Champion. The tide is starting to change for old Dominic Mysterio. The crowd was super pumped for his win. I know I couldn't stop smiling and laughing about how absurd it was, because it was the again, they did a great job. The least likely outcome, if you were to think about this prior. Um, and just pretty cool to see how they reacted to that. So very, very interested to see what they do now, because that takes us to the women's tag team title match, where the gals from Judgment Day, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, lose their titles. So now Dominic is the only title holder in the Judgment Day. But obviously we talked about this a little bit earlier today. The Bailey kayfabe injury knocks her out of competition. Who's going to be Lyra's tag team partner for this? And of course, the worst kept secret in the business, Becky Lynch returns. I will say, I was lukewarm on this morning when I kind of talked about it, but I popped for it too. It was great to see her. I thought she looked terrific. I think she did really well, and she is now your new co-tag team women's champion. I'm very interested to see what they do, because obviously now Lyra is a dual champion, also holding the women's Intercontinental title championship. So very interested to see what kind of happens there. Will she drop one or both? Does Bailey reinsert herself? Again, we have the angle on the other side too with Bailey in terms of who attacked her. Obviously, the fingers and everything would be pointing towards Liv or Raquel. But who knows? It could have been Becky. We don't know if Becky's returning as a face or as a heel. I think when she left last, she was a heel. So, we'll probably find out a little bit more. Excuse me. I don't know what brand she's going to be on either. If it'll be Raw, if it'll be SmackDown. SmackDown's a little flat, so I can see them kind of putting her there. But Seth Rollins is on Monday nights, so they may keep them together for that family dynamic. So, we'll see. Next up, you have the Sin City Street Fight with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. Pretty cool intros from both guys. Drew comes out to, I guess, the Doom video game, a themed outfit, very medieval looking, similar to some of the stuff he's done in the past. I thought he looked cool. I'm sorry if it's late, so I'm yawning a little bit, but I want to definitely make sure I get this out, because I actually have to work tomorrow on my real job. But I thought he looked really cool, but I don't think, I'm not usually big on these. I mean, the gimmick feels like 90s with like the sword. Kind of like the War Raiders. They seem like a 90s tag team with the gimmick. There are no Vikings and shit right now, you know what I mean? And for him to have a sword, not to mention, I mean, the jig is up on the sword when it, I forget, it was a couple of years back when I think he was going through the gimmick where he was using the sword to, I think Vince is still in power here. To like, he would cut the top rope essentially. It would obviously have a break in it or something like that, because the sword itself would bend like like a piece of aluminum. So it just made it look silly. So anyways, but he looked cool. He came out, and then then Damian Priest is played to the ring by Slayer guitarist. I didn't notice anything, but I think Twitter kind of mentioned some sound or audio issues, but I couldn't pick it up. Everything felt intentional. It didn't sound bad on my end. But I thought it was pretty cool. Again, I have no tie or stake with Damian Priest. I think he's fine. I think he's a good worker, but definitely happy to see Drew go over here again. He did a couple of things throughout that match too that were pretty funny, and with the again with the cell pick, the selfie during the match. I think and I forgot it was on today, but I need to go back and kind of watch some of the highlights. I know he won again social media star of the year 2 years in a row now. So obviously continuing to push that part of the gimmick, but So that was a great match. Drew ends up winning that a Claymore into the corner into a chair that was set up earlier in the match by Damien. Really strong by both guys, I think, in this match. A couple cool table spots. Both guys looked really good and strong. And, um, I don't think it had. Traditionally, when I think of street fights, when I traditionally think of like street fight matches, it's usually guys. The gear is, think of the backlot brawl with Gold and Rowdy Piper. Jeans, t-shirt, um, more dressed down, more hardcore match type feels with not the traditional ring gear that they would usually wear to any pay-per-view. So that was a little weird because typically the street fights are a little bit more in the crowd as well. I was for sure they would go over the barricade at some point. So it didn't feel like a traditional steel. It didn't feel like a traditional street fight match. Typical use of stairs. It just felt like a no holds barred, no DQ type match. Um, Typical stuff: chairs, tables, um, and that was about it. But overall, a decent match. Nothing crazy or overly super memorable. I think the most memorable piece of that match is the selfie. Next up, and I talked about this this morning, and I got so heated thinking that Rusev or Miro was going to come back and fucking take somebody's spot undeservedly. But next you have the Randy Orton Open Challenge against, a to be determined participant. And, I did not even see this name bandied about online. And usually there's at least some type of rumor when it comes to these types of things. I think for the most part, I think a lot of people were in the same camp that it was going to be, um, one, it could have been Nick Aldis, who he just RKO'd a couple nights ago. Miro or Rusev, as I mentioned, Aleister Black, who's teased, but I think, especially coming off the heels of Friday Night SmackDown, I believe he'll pop up on Friday. And then there was one more potential person, but I can't remember who it was. But anyways, none of those names were Joe Hendry. So very cool. I certainly popped for this one too. I was laughing and smiling. The crazy entrance, the crazy pan zooms, and then of course that gimmick ends up costing him the match at the very end, where he does the spin around to the tight camera shot close up, and then Randy Orton hits him with the RKO um, out of nowhere while he's still posing for the camera. So, and then after the match is over, he does one of his own, which I thought was hilarious, and a real fun match. So, this could have been a bust, but I think they did the best they could. I think it also gave, deservedly so. Joe Hendry's one of those guys, and I won't get too deep into this because it's probably an episode onto itself. But there are certain people that I really latch onto. I know I mentioned Chelsea Green yesterday or this morning in terms of people who I was hoping for, a little bit more this weekend. And it would have been sick too. Now that I think about it, if it was Joe Hendry. What if it was Matt Cardona? I think that would have been awesome too. I mean, I would have super popped for that. That would have been crazy. But it's these guys, and that's why I think Drew has a larger fan base now. These are guys who, at one point in their career, were kind of left. I don't want to say for dead, but they had to make a choice. Number one, some of them were directly outright fired by WWE. Future endeavored, as it used to be called, or still is commonly referred to, and made their way through the independents, made a name for themselves, traveled the world, well known in circles of the real wrestling fans, people who understand that there is a world outside of the WWE bubble. Um, so there's a real respect there for when people go through the paces and then kind of see that paid off. So, Joe Hendry, obviously the crossover with TNA, I thought that was a pretty cool move to have at a WrestleMania. Very exciting for both brands there. But very cool to kind of see him get his flowers for all the work that he's put in over the last several years. Um, so very cool to see that happen. And it's moments like that that you absolutely remember. Like that's an absolutely memorable moment. Um, and I think that hits harder than like I said, someone like Rusev returning, or somebody just kind of, or even Nick Aldis even just taking that spot. Um, the next match that we have is another good one. It's AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. Again, on paper, AJ can throw, both of these guys can put a match together, especially, time and time again, it's been proven. If you give, what's his name? If you give Paul enough time, the guy is able to practice enough that the match does come off really well. Overall, it was decent. There was a little bit of course, the same bullshit, outside interference potential with his dumbass friends, with the brass knuckles thing. Karrion Kross comes in, um, trying to get basically AJ to turn heel, essentially, I guess, and use the brass knuckles that his friend was going to use. He refuses, and basically out of nowhere, he basically gets blindsided, and Paul wins this match. So now he's, sorry, I can't even get it out. He's 3-0 at WrestleMania. So, basically one of those matches too, kind of thrown together a little bit fast from a backstory standpoint. But again, they presented it really well. I noticed a lot too in the beginning too. I think I went on mute at a certain point and put a podcast on, but I noticed like Paul, all three of those guys were really trying to sell Michael Cole, McAfee, and Barrett, really trying to sell Logan Paul, as a sympathetic figure almost, of people just basically being jealous of like all of his success, and they kept harping on it over and over again, which I thought was a little bit weird. Um, but anyways, that match ends, um, and some of these are out of order as well. So by the time, see if I missed any before we get to the final match. So far I'm stoked on this. So far, I think it's been a really great night. Like I said, if they had spliced in some of these matches last night and mixed in some of the downers from last night into this, it would have balanced the card a little bit better. But to close out the night, you have the Undisputed WWE Championship match, Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. I thought it was sick. John Cena's entrance, no fanfare, I mean, he had his music, but it was a blacked out stage, um, monitors, big screens, and it just said in white letters John Cena. I thought it was incredibly cool looking. Um, really got to the point of who this character is, or who he's trying to portray it as. Cody Rhodes comes out. I don't understand the necessary. He comes out with what the hell are those bikes called? Dirt bikes. Oh, let's before we get into this. Stone Cold comes out prior to this match, because I was like, I know there's something I'm missing. So Stone Cold comes out prior to this match, on a 4-wheeler, drives it down to the ring, circles the ring multiple times before eventually overcorrecting on a turn past the announce tables, smashing into the barricade, and a young woman who's behind that barricade crumbles into her chair, basically. So who knows what happens here, because that was a wild scene. He totals, not well totals, but he breaks the 4-wheeler, so he had to walk back up the ramp after just downing 6 beers, in 2 minutes. So hilarious. He comes out just to announce the attendance. Causes probably more damage than good. Got a great pop, of course, and it's awesome to see him in any capacity. But I thought that was hilarious, and hopefully that chick's okay. I mean, it looked innocent enough, that I thought she was trying to sell it a little bit, but I don't want to. I don't want to say that and have it not be true, but you know, she takes a fall, and then they were attending to her a little bit when he was leaving. So, anyways, we get back again. John Cena, Cody Rhodes comes out, his entrance, dirt bikes, and then very cool. If you remember last year, I think he had the gigantic skull mask, basically the tattoo version of the mask. This time slimmed down, more form fitting, and the Iron Man feature where the faceplate pops up automatically. So that looked pretty cool. I still don't understand it and why it's part of the gimmick, but takes that off, hits the ring, and then it was a decent match. I mean, it was. I don't want to come across as a just like poo pooing everything, but it was relatively boring for the most part, and there were a couple of good spots and a couple of back and forth and some false finishes and stuff like that. A couple of not a ref, couple of like multiple ref knockouts on this one of the same referee, which is odd. But it ends up coming down to, and this is the whole night is great except for this final match. And I say that because, again, who comes down to the ring to assist John Cena but Travis Scott? He comes down. Obviously, Cody owes him the receipt and everything. Everybody knows about it by this particular point. Hits him with the crossroads. Still gives Cena enough time. Basically, Cena, it comes, and they refer to this on the commentary as well. That's he had mentioned Cody in one of the promos. At some point, you need to choose to whether or not you want to be the bad guy or the good guy. So John Cena goes to hit Cody with the championship belt, and somehow I can't remember, but Cody is able to wrestle it away from him first, and he has the option to hit Cena. He declines. Cena nut shots him with a kick, and then hits him with the title belt himself. Retrieves the referee. 1, 2, 3, and Cena is your new undisputed WWE World Champion. Finishes in the ring with Travis Scott. Which I didn't mind that much this time. And then Cody's left up the ramp, almost very similar or shades of, without interference or, cheating, very similar to John Cena at WrestleMania 27 after losing to The Rock, where he's kind of sitting on the ramp, kind of seeing it all, from that view. But overall, a little bit of a flat finish. You could tell that some people were super surprised in the crowd that Cena won. Especially, I think you could tell when I think people were definitely anticipating that Cody was going to kick out of that pin. But I've been telling you, I think like number one, from the promotional pieces that WWE has put out, already making sure that everybody knows, hey, John Cena is going to be on Monday Night Raw the night after WrestleMania. John Cena is going to be in, God, what was that pay-per-view they advertised? They advertised him taking them on some European tour. Basically, I can't remember what it was, but basically he was the only name mentioned for it. And I know they have the tour going on and stuff like that, so they're obviously going to be kind of talking about some of that stuff and building some of that stuff up for people to anticipate. But it more and more, and then of course advertising before the show is even over that on the Pat McAfee show tomorrow, you're going to have both Paul Heyman and you're going to have John Cena. To me, that was the biggest indicator. Okay, John Cena is clearly going over tonight. Why would he go on this? Why would he go on Pat McAfee as the loser tomorrow? It would make no sense for his character. So they kind of buried the lead there a little bit, but overall, I'm excited for what happens next. Because WrestleMania is not done on Sunday. It really kind of jumpstarts again after Monday. Monday kind of caps things off. You're going to have who is going to show up tomorrow night. I think originally it was talked about that Becky would be coming back tomorrow. They fast-tracked that to have her show up in the match tonight at WrestleMania. So very interesting to see if they pull out anybody new, who comes back, if anything, what develops from coming out of this. But now, obviously, now Cena is your champion. Will there be a new title belt? Will there be, because I know he mentioned, hey, I'm going to retire with the title, take it away from everybody who here doesn't deserve it, etc. How does that kind of come into play now that he actually has won it? Very interesting to note that The Rock didn't show up at all. I think that kind of makes things kind of fall flat. I mean, after and the build to this match, I don't again. I don't want to. I don't want to come. I don't want to be on the negative slope on things, but I think The Rock should have definitely been involved in this pay-per-view in some form or fashion. He didn't have to wrestle. He didn't have to wrestle at all. But it would have been interesting to see him play the role, basically, of what Travis Scott played in this matchup. But we'll see. Maybe he'll have, some type of involvement moving forward. But overall, night 2, spectacular, I think, especially in comparison to night 1. Overall, my grade for the whole pay-per-view, I think I'm probably leaning towards a C. I think, as again, they do a tremendous job of spectacle, storytelling. I don't have the Peacock Premium, which I thought I did. So I missed a lot of the video packages that they've put together for these, but I did see some of them during like the preview shows and stuff like that. And just awesome. I mean, they do such a great job of weaving in, finely crafted videos, music, and they really pull you in. So even if you're just a casual person kind of watching on the side, you definitely get a great understanding of kind of like what these matches mean and why is it important to kind of care or watch now. So very very well done in that regard. And then we'll see what happens with everything that kind of transpired to finish night 1 with Paul Heyman, Seth Rollins. Again, Paul Heyman will be on the Pat McAfee show tomorrow with John Cena as the guest. So interesting to see what both of those guys have to say on the way to Monday Night Raw tomorrow night. So I hope you enjoyed WrestleMania. Again, as I mentioned this morning, it's one of my favorite times of the year. I look forward to it so much, and that's kind of why I was a little bent out of shape this morning, because I was looking like I put this on such a pedestal, especially after last year and how well I thought they did building that up and etc. So it's not that this fell completely flat, but great recovery after a mid night 1. So leave your comments. Let me know what you think. I'm excited to continue the road post WrestleMania, see what happens now. And then, of course, again, in May, we have Backlash. And then the month after that in LA, we're going to have Money in the Bank. So a lot of really cool opportunities for people to kind of step up and see who's going to be the next guy and gal jump in the line for a chance to compete for a championship. So everybody have a great night. Have a great week. Enjoy Monday Night Raw tomorrow night. And we will see you.
Out in the ring where we throw down, heartbeats racing, can't slow down. Feel the tension, feel the heat, emotions hitting on repeat. Wrestling win with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night. Voices shout and bodies clash. In this world, emotions crash. Tangled up in thoughts we spin. In the chaos we begin. Finding strength that's deep inside. Facing fears we cannot hide. Wrestling win with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night. grapple, every hold tells a story to be told. Raw and real and full of fire, pushing through the darkest mire. Wrestling with our inner fight, in the spotlight every